Hey Transformers fans, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going over Alpine Strike Autobot Drift. Now, I realize that for the most part I haven't really been covering a lot of repaints or a lot of paint jobs that aren't accurate to a character, and this is probably going to be the only exception to this. So Alpine Strike, or Atack Alpine Autobot Drift, is kind of an interesting exception because there are three different versions of Drift. Of course, there's the Drift from Robots in Disguise, there's the Drift from Age of Extinction and the Last Night, and then there's the Drift from the IDW comics, which is technically Gen 1. And this version's paint job is fairly accurate to Gen 1. What's really interesting is it also kind of makes him resemble Gen 1 Prowl. And I liked Prowl when I was younger, before I really kind of understood the characters. I was just like, Prowl's a police car, and he's a robot with a gun, that's cool. But I kind of like this paint job. I wanted to get the original Drift, the one with the orange and the black, but I wasn't able to find that one at any of the 5 stores near my house, being a Rite Aid, a Walmart, and 3 Targets. I wasn't able to find a regular Drift. I was able to find, however, this Drift, which you'll notice doesn't have the mustache and the goatee filled out. He just has kind of a blank face with those. They're sculpted in, but they're not painted in. But you can always go over that with a fine point Sharpie. I might end up doing that. I'm not sure yet. But this is basically a there is a like, it's like called either like Blizzard Drift or like Snow Attack Drift, and that Drift has a paint scheme similar to the winter camouflage that Drift and some of the other Autobots use when they're on snow missions. If you want that version of Drift, get that one. But I personally like this one because it resembles the IDW Drift, as well as technically also Red Alert and in Gen 1 Prowl. So without further ado, on the back, of course, artwork, instructions, transforms in 7 steps, and advertisement for the app. All you have to do is scan that Autobot symbol or the Decepticon symbol, whichever is accurate to the character, and you're able to basically temporarily unlock the character in game. So let me get this open. Out of the box, this version of Drift is pretty cool. His arms are a little lanky, and his legs are a little bulky, so he does have kind of a weird vertical symmetry, but he does have a good solid base. He's not top heavy, unlike Grimlock or some of the other characters in the recent Transformers series. He does come with 2 swords, one of which being his full-length katana, and one of which being a shorter blade, which I do not remember the name of, but it's not a katana, and it's basically a similar blade, just a shorter sword. They can be stored on his left side in these little slots next to his belt. It does take a little bit of effort to get them to go in, but they do indeed go in all the way to the hilt, as you can see. They go in all the way to the hilt, and what's really cool is I saw a review saying that because he has the waist articulation like this, you can put him in poses where he is reaching for his blade like that. You can pose him that way, where he's reaching for his blade. That's really cool. Most characters, most characters with weapon storage aren't able to easily access their weapons, but this version of Drift can, and I really like that. Unfortunately, that does give him a little bit of a not necessarily a backpack, but he does stick out a good inch or 2 from the back. He is kind of a flat figure, just because of the way he's molded. And the only real piece of kibble he has is basically his front, the front headlights, his grill hanging off in the front. The weapons are only storable in. So the weapons are only storable there in robot mode. In vehicle mode, they do store on little clips on his legs, which I'll show when I get there. Overall, this is a really nice version of Drift. Here's a close-up again of the face with the unpainted mustache and goatee. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Alpha Trion. I think it's pretty decent. The molding on the head is pretty good. Articulation, he has a little bit of a left and right swivel in the neck. He has a swivel in the shoulder as well as in and out movement, though it is fairly hampered because of the way the shoulder piece is. He does have a swivel in the upper arm as well as the he actually has a double joint because of the transformation in his upper arm, and then for the wrist/hand, he just has in and out movement, and that's part of the transformation. Like I showed before, he does have waist. He does have a waist swivel, which is fairly standard on most figures, from what I can tell, in Robots in Disguise, save for Grimlock. He does have articulation here in the side skirts, which is kind of nice if you want to get some more poses, like doing almost a full splits, which he can do. Oh, he can do almost a full splits. And that's because he has a ball joint in the hips, and it's a very solid ball joint. It's not flimsy or anything. He has a swivel in the upper leg. That seems to be fairly standard nowadays. And no articulation in the ankles, which is unfortunate. But he does have very large feet. One could even call them pizza feet, which is a little stereotypical for characters that are ninja or samurai, but it gives him a wider base in addition to the bulkier legs to make him have a fairly good base. So you can spread his legs and he can still stand fairly sturdily. I'm hitting my desk here and he's not wobbling at all. But yeah, this is a really nice figure. I'm really happy I bought this, and now I'm going to transform it off screen because we all know you don't want to see that because every reviewer does that. So if you want to see a transformation, either buy the figure for yourself or, you know, watch another YouTuber. In vehicle mode, Drift folds up into a pretty nice white with red kind of accent sports car. I think this is a really nice sports car. Definitely resembles his IDW counterpart as well as Gen 1 Prowl. He does have a little bit of a decal here on the front. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Toyota symbol, but resembling his crest on his helmet. And I really like this kind of vein pattern. It looks good. Indy, of course, has the blue headlights up in the front. It doesn't fold as seamlessly as I'd like, but at least he doesn't have as many like little tiny tabs as Strong Arm. Strong Arm has a lot of little tabs, and for the most part, he has a really simple robot. Basically, all you have to do is just flip some armor over his head, because basically there's his head right there. You just flip 2 panels to cover his head, fold his arms flat against his torso, and then just rotate his legs around and close the feet. Basically that's it. Oh, and just move his backpack to cover his back. He's a really easy transformation that requires a little bit of finicking, but you know, a little kid, if you bought it for like your son, your daughter, or just maybe like a younger child, isn't going to be too distraught over the fact that it doesn't fold up perfectly like flat. They're going to just be like, cool, it's a car now. Rolls pretty good. The wheels are molded in plastic, but they're not like a solid black. They're kind of a smoky, dark gray. They are semi-transparent. Let me see if I can. Yeah, you can see they're somewhat transparent. You can see my thumb going behind this wheel right here. It looks cool. It looks cool. I like that. It's the same color as the tinted windows. And there are, for storing the weapons, there are these little posts on the inside of the car mode that you can plug them in. Doesn't really matter which one you plug where, but because the sword pieces are there, I'm going to assume it's imply that you're supposed to plug the little sword there just for symmetricalness. I don't know. But there we go. Yeah, there's the swords plugged in. You can see there's Drift's head. And the back of his helmet does stick out a little bit, but not enough to be a clearance issue. But yeah, I mean, basically you can just look at the bottom of this car and pretty much know exactly what's going to happen. Overall, I'd say this is a really nice vehicle mode. Rolls well, looks good, and the robot mode is really great too. The only thing you have to be careful with is just because it is a white vehicle, you have to be careful not to scratch it or anything. For example, I don't know how well you can see it, but on mine, let me actually take out this sword. On mine, if you look at the sword sheaths, you can see a little bit of red paint has scratched off on the inside of the top sheath, just from the sword having gone in there. And I'm not sure if that'll become a bigger issue down the road, but it's just something to keep an eye out for. Also, because of the way the vehicle is, it can stand up vertically like this. Just for comparison, here he is with Warrior Class Grimlock. That's actually basically to scale. That's actually really... Obviously, this Grimlock is meant to be in scale with vehicle modes. If you want a scale with robot modes Grimlock, get a different Grimlock. But he's definitely in scale with the vehicle mode here. And here he is with Strong Arm. And I'd say this is pretty good too. So, thank you all for watching. Until next time, I've been Metagross Freak, and have a great one. Of honor! Sorry I had to do that.